Hello everyone. Today I'll be teaching from the book of Matthew chapter 13 and verse 24. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seeds in his field. He says the kingdom of heaven. Adam was in the kingdom of heaven in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 2 and 4. And his wife was a part of him. But they were both in the kingdom of heaven. They were in paradise. And here we go, church. In the book of Matthew chapter 13 and verse 38, now remember where Jesus said he sowed the good seeds. He said he sowed the good seeds in his field. The field is the world. He sowed the good seeds in Adam and his wife because they were created out of the world. In Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7, God created the man out of the dust of the earth. So that made Adam connected to the earth. Because Adam was a natural man. He was created of the earth. In 1 Corinthians 15, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, we see that Adam was of the earth. But Jesus was a spiritual body. Now watch this, church. He said he sowed the seed, the good seed, in his field, while Adam and his wife were of the world. And because she's what Adam is, because she's bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh, so whatever Adam is, she is. If he's of the earth, she's of the earth. And remember what he said. He said in the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man who sowed good seeds in his field. Jesus sowed good seeds in Adam and his wife. We see in the book of Matthew chapter 13 and verse 25, it says, while men slept, the enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. We see in the book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 21, Adam and his wife both slept, and the enemy came and sowed tares in Genesis 3 verse 1 through 7. Then after he sowed the tares, their eyes were opened because they both had sinned. Now in the book of Genesis 3 and 15, God is talking here, and he's saying that he's going to make the woman and the devil enemies. He said that the woman's going to have a seed. He said that the woman's seed and the devil's seeds will be enemies. Now we're seeing two seeds here, church. The woman's seed and the devil's seed. Now Jesus said while men slept, the enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. Where did the devil do this? He did this while Adam and his wife were asleep. They slept. Their eyes were not open until Genesis 3 and 7. Now watch this. In Genesis 4 and 1, we know that Adam and his wife were driven out of the garden. They're no longer in there. It said Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bare Cain. Verse 2, she again bare his brother Abel. She had twins. She did not conceive twice. She only conceived one time, but she bare two boys, two sons. And the first one was Cain. In the book of 1 John chapter 3 and verse 12 says, Cain was of that wicked one and slew his brother because his own works were evil and his brothers were righteous. So we see that the devil did sow his seed. He sowed it while Adam and his wife slept. And when their eyes were opened, they had sinned and they were driven out of the garden. And when they came into the world, she had two children. Cain was of the wicked one, and Abel was the good seed. In the book of John chapter 8 and verse 44, Jesus is talking to the people, and he said, you are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. What did Cain do? Cain killed his brother. We see in the book of Matthew chapter 13 and verse 27 and 28, it says, the servants of the household came and said, Sir, did thou not sow good seeds in the field? Where did these tares come from? In verse 28, he said, the enemy has done this. And then he says, go and gather them. He's telling him to gather the tares up. And he tells him in verse 9, no, because while we're gathering the tares, you'll root up the wheat with them. We see in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 2. Now you cannot tell a tare from a wheat. They look just alike. And we see in Genesis 4 and 2 that Abel was a keeper of the sheep. Cain was a tiller of the ground. So you couldn't tell the difference in them until the tare rose up and killed the wheat. Because the tare was of the devil. He was a murderer from the beginning. There in the garden where the devil sowed his seed among the good seed. And when they came out into the world, we have the tares and we have the wheat. And we see that the wheat, how you can tell the tare from the wheat is when they throw the wheat up in the air, the wheat is heavy. It will come back down to the ground. But the wind will blow away the tare because there's nothing inside of the tare. It is empty. We see in the book of Matthew chapter 13 and 30, it says, let them both grow together until the harvest. And I will say to the reapers, gather the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Jesus is the sower of the good seeds in the book of Matthew chapter 13 and verse 37. In the book of Matthew chapter 13 and 39, we see that the harvest is the end. We also see that the devil is the sower of the tares. We also see in verse 39 that the reapers are the angels and the harvest is the end. Revelations 14, chapter 14 and verse 15. We see in the book of Revelations 13 and 14, it is in Revelations 19 and 20 where they're going to burn the beast and all those that took the mark and all those that worship the beast. So we see what happened to the tares. We also see in the book of Revelations 13 and verse 4. So we're seeing what Jesus is telling the people. He's telling them a future event. He's telling them that he knew the devil came and sowed his seed among the wheat. He knew where he did it in the garden in the book of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15. He knew he sowed it in Genesis 3 and 1 when he was talking to the woman while they both were asleep. Jesus knows how it all happened. He knew when they came into the world, he knew that the devil's seed was mingled with the good seed, because there was Abel that was the wheat and there was Cain that was the tare. And Cain was of that wicked one of the devil. And God says, let them grow together because in the end will be the harvest. And he'll send forth the reapers, which are the angels, and they will gather the tares and they'll bundle them up and burn them because that's their end. Because they're of the devil. They're of the wicked one. We see in the book of Matthew chapter 13 and 37. Now we're going to go to a higher revelation knowledge here, church. So go with me. In the book of Matthew 13 and 37, Jesus is the sower of the good seed. The seed is the word of God. Luke 8 and 11. In the book of John 1 and 1, the word was with God. The word was God. John 1 and 14, the word became flesh and dwelt among us. Jesus says in the book of John chapter 12 and verse 24, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bring forth much fruit. 1 Corinthians 15, 35 through 38, how the dead are raised. What body do they come? He said, thou fool, that which thou sowest is not quickened, except it die. Verse 37, that which thou sowest not that body that shall be. They're telling us that that body that's going into that ground ain't that body that which it's going to become, because it's going to come up and it's not going to look like the seed that went into the ground. You go plant some seeds and see that whenever that seed springs up and grows you a flower, it don't look nothing like that seed that went into that ground. And that's what Jesus is trying to tell us here. That whenever his body went into that ground and when it came up, it was not the same body. Because we have a body waiting for us in heaven. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. In the book of John chapter 18, verse 17 and 18, Jesus said, therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it up again, and no man take it from me. I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. This is the commandment that I received of my Father. The commandment that Jesus received of his Father was love. John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Galatians chapter 5 and 14 says the law is fulfilled in one word, love thy neighbor. So we see the commandment, and we also see it in the book of John 14 and verse 31 was love. In the book of John 20, here we go, church, I got to hurry. In the book of John chapter 20 and verse 14, 15, and 16, after Jesus rose from the grave, Mary saw him and didn't even recognize him. John 20 verses 26, 27, 28, 29, Thomas didn't even believe Jesus. They had to see the holes in his hands and in his feet and the piercing in his side before they would believe it was the Lord, because they did not recognize him, because the body that was sown in the ground was not the body that came up. And Jesus sowed his own body, and the reason why he sowed his own body is because he had the power to raise it up. We see in the book of John chapter 20 and verse 29, Jesus said, blessed are they that have not seen, but yet believe. That's some revelation knowledge right there, church. So Jesus is giving us a revelation through the sower of the seeds. And that the seed that went into the ground was not the seed that came up. He sowed his own body. And the body that came up was not the body that went in there, because he told us his disciples did not even recognize him. And if anyone's going to know Jesus, it was them. They walked with him every day. I hope and pray you like that amazing revelation from the Holy Spirit of God. God bless you, my dear precious friends.